Hello, a quick video for people installing the 2122 L bracket. I made quite a few videos, but actually I have not made a clear video on how to install it correctly. And somebody on DP Review had a problem with theirs, and we are not sure if it's something in the camera or the L bracket or just the way that he installed it. So just to make sure, I'm making this video that I can share with people if they have questions about this topic. So if you already have the bracket installed, and then you can move on and go to the next video I'm going to publish. But I just wanted to show how I installed it and why. Now my camera still has the tape on it, which is part of the let's say the weather sealing project, and I have two L brackets here. This one is we are going to use, which is a production version, totally standard, except that I put the gun tape on there, as you have seen. I did it all the way around. And in the end I will put my own bracket back on, which is still the pre-production unit. That's the one I'm using normally. So let's get going, because I think maybe part of it might be the way that it's being installed, and I can also kind of explain, at least show you what mine is doing, and why there is a little bit of movement. So normally what I would do, I will put it on top, and now here the discussion is, or the question is, that this bracket, like also the Really Right Stuff one, and I think several others, are made for both the a7R3, the a7iii and the a9. But the a9, physically, the body is 1 millimeter thicker. So what they did, what most of the brands did, they made a little bit of a compromise so that they didn't have to make a new bracket for each camera. Now, and therefore, as a result, there is some slight movement if you don't install it correctly. So let me, and again, I'm not saying that he installed it incorrectly. It might be just another problem with either the camera or the screw or the L bracket itself. But I wanted to give some comparison. So what I did is I will loosen it up quite loose so it still can move, and then put it back, and you can see what's happening. So you can see that I can move the camera back and forward about 1 millimeter, which is the millimeter we are talking about. So if you would screw it down in the back position, there's two issues. Well, of course you can then kind of move it like this, about this much. You can, let me try to showcase it so that you have some comparison, but you can see that indeed I can move it a little bit. But it also has an effect that this does not flow nicely, right? Because there's then sort of a, you feel that it just doesn't fit correctly. So what you need to do is push it forward so that this is now sort of nice. I most of the time hold it just to see, well, this is how it's supposed to be. Then turn it over. So press this basically to make sure that the front part is actually connecting correctly, and then lock it up. So I won't do it super tight. I will just do it tiny bit. So, and then turn it back, and then you see that this should flow quite nicely, right? So this should be flat, and sometimes you can see that it could move further, right? So you can kind of play a little bit around with it and move it around before you lock it down completely. But you can see that it should not rattle or whatever, right? So, well, of course, in this case it's the anchor that's moving, but there is no weird movement going on, even if I haven't tightened it all up. I did it quite loosely now. Now, before I put on the other one, I did notice, because of this, let's say, compromise in design, both for the, to make it work for the a9 and the a7 series, that there is a little bit of movement on both the Really Right Stuff one and on this one if you put it down. So if you put it down on something hard, you kind of feel that these things are not connected, if that makes sense. And that was part of the reason, and only part of the reason, that I decided to put a rubber in between, because the most important part for me was the weather sealing. So watch my weather sealing video if you want to see more about that. But as an extra bonus, I would almost say, and I will show it when I put my normal one back, it also means that there's a little bit more of a dampening sort of going on, and there's a little bit of rubber in this front part that also probably helps a little bit with making it less movement and more solid. So in my opinion, at least on this one, the two that I have, there is no movement or instability at all when I lock it down correctly. But even if it would be possible, I'm pretty sure it's less, simply because of the rubber that I put in, which is something that I hope to have convinced smallrig to put in the next one. So I will loosen it up again. As you can see, there's almost no force behind it, so it was really not that locked down. Remove this one and take the other one in. I will leave the protection there. So the thing that I did, and you can see that again, the plug I will leave in, but you can take it out. It's just a plug that's plugged in. But I made this rubber, right? So next to the tape, which is sort of step one, and the locking of the battery plate, I also, but I did it with all my L brackets, not this smallrig one. I've put this little bit of rubber in there, put it over the hole, then sort of make sure that it goes through the hole. Normally this would be stuck to my camera because I've been there for so long, but you can see that the way that I put it down, it also enters this. Let me rotate the camera. You can see it also sort of creates a little bit of an edge over there. And as a result, I'm pretty sure it will help both in the dampening, because the feet are now sort of landing on this a little bit of rubber. So it's sort of dampening the blows if they are there. But it also probably locks it a little bit better there, right? It's kind of a side effect about the weather protection I've put in. So then lock this one down, put it back in and install it. And I want to do this correctly because I don't want to take it off again. So move it over again, press it forward, make sure that this feels comfortable, right? That is totally locked down. Then I tighten it up a little bit. That's what I always do. So you feel it tighten up. I do it a tiny bit of force there. Check if it feels comfortably, that the way that I want it. And if it feels like this is the way it should be, you can see that it's already not moving anymore. There's no fiddling or riddling or whatever going on. Check if it feels correctly, that the way that I want it. Most of the time also look a little bit, so make sure that it's correct. And then lock it down completely. And how much force you should use here is always a tricky one, right? So far I've locked it down, it never came loose for me. So yeah, this is, and now I have in real use of putting it down on stuff, because this is of course now iron, so you are a little bit more, feel a little bit more comfortable in plumping it down. I've never felt this come loose or start movement in any position. So maybe there was a production problem, maybe there was something with the screw being too short, too long, I don't know. Difficult to say, but hopefully this this kind of helps, at least for others, to see how I normally will put it on and how it's been working for me. And also, to be fair, now that I get it on again, how much nicer it actually feels when the camera has the L bracket on there. So yeah, see you in the next one. And if you've already seen me do this about 25 times, I'm sorry for that, and hopefully the next video will be more newsworthy for you. Bye bye.